The 2022 Kia Telluride. Mark and I first reviewed this thing over 2 years ago at its launch event in Gateway, Colorado. But since then, the segment that is the full-size 3-row SUV has continued to grow and get even more premium. So we wanted to revisit the Telluride to see how it stacked up to its most recent crop of competition. So when it comes to the interior space of the Telluride, the primary reason you should be buying this thing is for its ability to carry both people and things. And when it comes to its cargo capacity, it's still pretty much unrivaled, with over 87 cubic feet of cargo capacity with all the seats folded down. And when it comes to its ability to carry people, it's still very impressive. You can definitely tell it's utilizing its minivan roots to the best of its ability. The second row in this SX trim level are captain's chairs. They're excellent, there's good headroom and legroom back there. When you use the third row in this vehicle, you essentially sacrifice the Telluride's ability to carry anything. That said, the third row itself is reasonably comfortable. I would not want to put a full-size adult back there, but if you are a smaller person or a child, you should be more than fine. When it comes to the rest of this interior space, when it comes to the rest of the interior space of the Telluride, one of the things I really appreciate about Kia is they have not focused on gimmicks, but rather they put all their attention to utility and actual ease of use. You have good visibility in this vehicle. All of the switchgear is thankfully physical and well laid out, and the infotainment is still one of the best in the segment. It's fast to react and the menu structure is very logical. And on top of that, the safety suite offered by Kia and Hyundai is still, even all these years later, one of the best in this segment. The lane keep assist works great, the adaptive cruise control is largely seamless, and nice features like the blind spot cameras that pop up in the center gauge cluster are still excellent. The one thing I will say about this vehicle is the price point it competes at. It starts in the higher or mid-30s and can end up cresting over $50,000. And really that's my con with this thing. Once you tart it up to nearly 50 grand, it competes against products that are quite frankly more luxurious and feel more expensive than this. Some of the interior materials have not aged that well, particularly when you compare it to something like the Acura MDX, which does a much better job tarting up the cabin with expensive feeling leathers, more road isolation material. The MDX is a far quieter vehicle than this, and most noticeably, the audio system. The audio system in something like the Acura MDX does a much better job in delivering the goods. So with that said, I think it's time for us to head into the shop and put this thing up on the lift.
Again, with another Telluride. We're gonna keep doing Tellurides because there's so many 3-row crossovers. I just want to do a video for each one of them times 50.
Well, let me tell you, Mark, you have the Honda Pilot, you have the Nissan Pathfinder, you have the Toyota Highlander, you have the Ford Explorer. So tell me about it.
It's a minivan.
Yeah, it is.
It's on a minivan architecture that's been modified from the Kia Sedona, or I'm sorry, the Kia Carnival now. And that's not a bad thing. No. And we said this right off the bat. You're taking something that is a true people hauler with the cargo capacity, all the things that minivans are good at, and you're reshaping it as a 3-row SUV. So a lot of the good things that carried over from the Carnival are here. It's just now more compromised in order to give you this rugged shape. And out of any manufacturer, they figured out a way to do it on the cheap because they took what already worked. They knew that people didn't need hardcore off-road capability like Jeep claims that they add to their Cherokee. So this is like the antithesis or the opposite of what Jeep is trying to do.
You're giving up a more premium platform and a more capable platform for a big boat that can carry a lot of people. And that's my argument for something like this, compared to the Grand Cherokee L, which has double wishbone front suspension.
That looks like a luxury product compared to this. This is just a giant piece of, like, it looks like an economy car underneath.
Or the Ford Explorer, which is rear-wheel drive. Or the Dodge Durango, which is also double wishbone, or the million other competitor products. This is giving up something to give you a lot in the interior space.
It's urban spec. This is an urban SUV purposely designed for that function, much like the Highlander. If you're gonna say what is the closest thing to this, and that's the Highlander, for sure. Now the Highlander definitely does not have the look and the feel or the size in many ways. It definitely, I don't know. Those would be the two that I'd look at if you're only driving on pavement.
So this is strut front, multi-link rear, and it has an on-demand all-wheel drive system. So it's front-wheel drive most of the time, but when it detects slip, it'll send power to the rear. However, you can lock it for short periods of time where it will split the power 50-50 all the time. The V6 is tried and true. It's the 3.8 liter. It's DI only. It is a little bit thirsty, at least in the colder weather. We're getting a little bit less than 20 miles per gallon on average, which when you compare it to the Highlander, you can get it as a CVT, eCVT hybrid, which again, it depends on what you want. This V6 though is pretty smooth.
It is smooth, and there is a lot of refinement here, you know, and we talk about this being on a budget platform, but they've done everything they can possibly do here to make this feel like it's a more expensive product. So if you get into this and you've never been into luxury products before, you're going to be blown away in terms of ride quality, comfort, isolation. But if you're coming from a more expensive product, you're going to be like, there's a lot of body shake. There's a lot of turbulence in the chassis. When you hit the back, it transmits to the front, much like a minivan. And as you noted, when it gets really cold out, the price point that these shocks were purchased at from their OEM.
$3 shocks, yeah.
They do not do a good job at maintaining a soft ride in the cold. They get a lot stiffer.
There is a noticeable shift between cold weather and normal weather performance. The last thing I will bring up is if you get this with the towing package, you do get ride leveling shocks in the back. They are not air ride, but they do level themselves if you put a bunch of weight or you're towing. So with that, Mark, I think it's time for us to put this thing about on the road and talk about how this stacks up with its competition.
Sounds good. Jack, life in the slow lane, 3-row SUVs. They are popular, but let's see what it's like.
All right. Well, you're in comfort. You need to be in sport. There we go. You know, Mark, this Telluride's making me feel all warm and fuzzy. Our first ever press trip was in a Telluride.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. That's a special event. We
held hands.
Yeah, and we did more than that.
We held hands and we made deep eye contact with Everyday Driver. That was the first time we ever met them.
Oh, boy, that was a hell of a trip. Let me tell you that. So now let's talk about
Time has moved on.
Time has moved on, and now we're hooked on 3-row SUVs. I'm a personal fan of this form factor because we haul a lot of gear for our trips, and when I have a 3-row, that means you could put that third row down and pack it full of stuff and still have that second row there for potentially a passenger or two. Now, we know that the gotchas are almost every single 3-row SUV has no space when you have that third row up. So it kind of is a gimmick in some ways. In other ways, you're getting the style of a traditional SUV without going to a full-size truck like an Escalade or an Expedition, where you get that body-on-frame, boxy look.
Yes.
But, you know, like we talk about constantly, you can't have everything in one car.
If you want maximum utility, let's just get this straight, and you don't need to tow anything, you get a minivan.
Yes.
The minivan kills the
everything.
3-row SUV.
It kills everything, but the minivan market has shrunk. It has shrunk down, and the problem with the minivan market, and this is one of the things that I don't like, is they don't have a true luxury spec minivan. I'm talking air ride, I'm talking like high-end audio system, nice leathers, all the creature comforts you get in luxury products. So that to me is a big turnoff of the minivan. I can deal with everything else.
But the Telluride, though, to be fair, is not a full-blown luxury product. Let's get back to what this thing is.
This thing is blending the luxury segment and the economy segment together. They're doing a great job of bridging that gap. So I'm not having to pay $75,000 for a loaded XC90 or an X7 or a Q7. I can get this for around 40 or 50 fully loaded. Be able to tow. It still looks like it looks expensive.
Very good, yeah.
It does from the outside. It's one of the best looking 3-row SUVs. And the interior has the wannabe luxury enough to make you feel like you're in a much better car or SUV than you are.
At $50,000, like I said in the interior segment, this loses out to something like an Acura MDX or some of the other vehicles, particularly when you factor in the fact that all of the dealers are screwing you if you're buying a Telluride right now. They're putting on $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 markups. But going back to the MSRP argument, the 3-row SUV segment is very competitive now, and all of its competitors are new since this vehicle has been launched. The Pathfinder is new. We just did a video on that. The Highlander is new. Those vehicles are similar sizes to this. The Ford Explorer is essentially identically sized. And the Cherokee L, which is also new, and we've reviewed that vehicle. And all of those vehicles, I think, do certain things better than this. The Cherokee has a double wishbone architecture. The Explorer is rear-wheel drive. The Pathfinder has a great hybrid. Sorry, the Highlander has a great hybrid. And the Pathfinder is a Nissan, so you can get it financed for 500 years. So why would you buy this?
I think it's captured the modernism that buyers want. It does technology good. It does seating configurations good. It's one of the largest interior cargo volumes in its class. It can tow a little bit. And I mean, that's what I was saying before. It really is that true cross between luxury products and the economy products, and it does not feel bad at all. It doesn't feel like it's trying too hard.
No, I'll give you that. I really think the Telluride and its twin, the Palisade, still hold up. Unless you have traction control cut in when you're trying to launch it. To me, I wish in some ways that there was we talked about this with hot hatchbacks or cheap cars, that one product that does everything. I wish this had the drivetrain out of the Highlander. That hybrid is great, and the fact that you get great fuel economy.
Right.
I wish it had the premium platform of the Cherokee L with the double wishbones in the front. And you know, this interior space is still probably one of my favorites. Sadly, that vehicle doesn't exist, so it's up to you to decide which one you should buy.
So the pros of this are the same because it's the same vehicle that we drove before. It's pretty refined, honestly. It is very smooth. It is on the softer side, which is what everybody wants in a segment like this. They don't want it to be riding rough. The negatives are still here, that it is, although it has a V6, it is certainly not quick. It's not quick, and it's probably one of the worst handling.
Oh, it's based on a minivan.
Yes.
A Kia minivan underneath that was old to begin with when this vehicle came to market. So you're dealing with that inherent compromise. But in its, factoring that in, you have good interior, good cargo space, looks good, and they have a very competitive warranty.
The warranty when you buy it new is very competitive, and that's going to take the edge off of if you're spending 40 to 50 grand on this. It's something that you can buy and keep long term, and you know you're going to be bringing it in.
Would you buy this?
Now that the market's so competitive, the one thing that I don't like, the one thing that really hurts this for me, is I love how soft it is, but I don't like how cumbersome it is. It's not nimble at all. And I hate to bring up the more premium brands, but when you get into the Q7 or the X7s of the world, those cars are on legit platforms. So you get the soft ride and you can throw it through corners. And this thing is a one-trick pony. It is all about being soft all the time. There is literally no fun to be had because it's a front-wheel drive car with an on-demand all-wheel drive system.
Yeah, the Americans handle better than this.
They do.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. And you brought up the Exploder and you brought up the Cherokee, and those are both better handling products. Now, there's deficiencies in both of those compared to this, but man, that's a really hard choice. I really like this thing. I see why people are paying markups on it. It does feel special.
But you should not pay markups.
You should not pay markups on this. No, not for what this is underneath. You should not be paying a markup. It's a very here and now three-row vehicle, but it is also one of the best at what it does right now, Jack. And I think that's the best time to get into the shop and close this out.
All right. Final thoughts on the Kia Telluride. This is still the Goldilocks product in a ridiculously competitive segment. While there are other vehicles out there that may have better driving dynamics, a more premium feeling interior, or maybe a better value, there are very few things on the market that blend all of those wonderful characteristics together better than the Telluride. This vehicle is reasonably priced, assuming you do not get totally screwed over by your dealership. It is absolutely massive, it is a comfortable space, and is not a total dog to drive. That said, this is still a very competitive segment, so there are a lot of good options out there, so you should absolutely not be paying over sticker for this thing. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you soon.